Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the Fan Show, where we give the opportunity of fans coming on the channel talking about all things Tottenham Hotspur. Of course, we've just come off that 4-0 defeat on Thursday evening against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup, out of the Carabao Cup, but of course we are in FA Cup action tomorrow on Sunday afternoon away at Aston Villa, and of course we have key games coming up in the Premier League and the Europa League for the rest of the season. Now I've got Spurs fan and channel regular Craig Dearman with me on this episode. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all good. This was my idea. Sorry for calling you off your sickbed, Chris, but like a true trooper, we did it. So we got an hour and a bit to just discuss it. I think it was needed. I think people need to perhaps give their feelings on how they think tomorrow's game is going to go, how they feel at the moment as a Spurs fan. So it'd be good to hear from as many of you as we can. And the link is, I think, in the chat there, Chris, isn't it? If people do want to jump on.
Absolutely. For the first time, we have given literally everyone the chance to come on this channel and come on this episode. Let's talk Tottenham. You can come on, talk about whatever you wish. The link has gone out, late notice, as Craig said. I've been in bed all day. I've felt rough as hell all day long, and Craig was badgering me saying, let's do a fan show today, let's do a fan show. And then I'm like in bed, and then I've got out, had a shower, feel a little bit better, but here we are. Let's bring Mark on. Mark, great to have you here. How are you?
I'm all good, thanks. Yourself?
All good. Mark, how are you feeling? How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan?
I don't really know at the moment, if I'm completely honest. I think probably the main one would be upset, just how things are going. We always get that little bit of a glimmer of hope during, like Brentford and Elfsberg and teams like that, and you think maybe, but then Liverpool just really kind of took it out of me. After the first 5 minutes, I knew we were never going to win this game, and we were just not up for it. And that was the upsetting part. And obviously you being there as well. Probably at least I'm sat at home watching it, whereas you've made hours to get up there and having to put yourself through that, which was very upsetting, to say the least.
Do you think that Liverpool game was probably one of the worst you've watched, Mark, certainly in recent history, considering the gravity of the game, the importance of the game, the fact that, we haven't won a trophy since 2008. How did you feel about that overall performance?
Well, you take the performances like Ipswich and Crystal Palace and Everton, and you think you can't get any worse. And I think with a game like Liverpool in semi-final, you shouldn't have to get up for it. You shouldn't have to go out there and give it your all. They should be crawling off that pitch after 90 minutes, because they're the first ones to moan that they're going to make us proud one way or the other. And, these are the opportunities that these players keep telling us that they want to be in, playing against the best teams, playing for trophies. And, it almost took me back to the bloody Champions League final, where we just looked scared to death. More afraid of losing. You're going to lose anyway, so give it all. Give it your all.
Mark, is it a case of these players are absolutely shattered, or that they just did not give enough on the night?
I think there's a mix. I think there's a mix of, we've got Kulusevski, playing every minute there is. Even Son, a lot of people are complaining about Son. I mean, I love Son, and I've always loved Son. And, he is playing as much as more than he should be playing. And, the rotation, which is very important, particularly on the way Ange likes to play his football. And yes, there's a mix, but there's also, I was really disappointed in Bentancur on that night. He just looked like a pedestrian in that midfield. It looked as though he was just trying to keep out of sight almost. And, you know, when Bergvall's coming on, who's an 18-year-old, who's chasing everything down, trying to make things happen. And even at the end of the game, where he's actually, you know, the young players are going over to our seniors, which is our leadership team, and going, the fans are over there, we've got to go over there. You know, you might be, pardon my French, pissed off, but they've turned up for this. We've got at least got to go and show our respect. And those sort of little things make me think, mentality-wise, what is going on?
How did you think Tell and Danzo played, Mark?
I think Danzo played actually really well, considering, you know, thrown into the mixer, as they say. You know, he looked assured. You know, considering the back fours and what is it? I think you might have said on your show before. You know, our permanent back fours only played together 16 times in the last season and a half. You know, and this was another back four. You know, new player. So I thought he actually handled it quite well. Kinski looked a bit nervous, rightly so, but again, he was. I thought he struggled a little bit in the back. But I thought Danzo was actually quite good. He tried to take the ball forward a few times to try and create a little bit of space. And Tell, I think he just came on and he tried his best with the time he had allotted to him, really. And if you're not getting any type of service, what are you meant to do? He was. I think he was even trying to gee up the crowd at one stage and get players. He was waving his arm, saying, you know, come on, you know, move forward, come on, you know, I can't do this on my own. And players just sort of sat back and tried to, you know, be comfortable, and you should not be comfortable in a semi-final. You should be playing for it. Even the nervous energy should get you through 90 minutes or more.
I've got to say, Mark, I don't know whether you listened to the podcast after the game, but it was like at half time, I was still positive because it was 1-0 at that point. So it was 1-1 on aggregate. And I thought, you know, we're still in this game, obviously. But everyone around me, everyone, you know, all the fans, they just switched off, I think, and thought that is exactly what's going to happen. We're going to go on to lose the game, which, of course, we did heavily in the end. Where do you stand with Ange Postecoglou at the moment with all of the injuries? Because even in the press conference and the embargo press conference yesterday, he's saying that, you know, a lot of criticism is aimed at him from the fans and the media. And even he's saying that, you know, we've got injuries. How long can a manager keep going on about injuries? Because we could go on like this until the end of the season with this amount of injuries, because the way it's gone, you know, that's just the way our season has gone. You know, this amount of injuries, it just seems that we get a player back, we lose a player or two. It just doesn't ever seem to get better. And when was the last time also that you were excited under Ange Postecoglou? Because when you think about those first 10 games and we started off so well last season, have we returned to that type of style, or has it just been up and down since then, would you say? Because it is fair to say that we have had a fairly fully fit squad in some of these games where we should have done better.
Absolutely. After those first 10 games, which was fantastic, and again, our hopes were dashed over 10 games. But I think even since then, it's been very inconsistent. You know, I mean, I know Ange talks about, you know, the last few months. This has been going on since we lost against Chelsea last season. It's been very inconsistent, and considering the players that we do have, even going back to that Liverpool game, and like you at half time, I was feeling, you know, something, it's 1-1 still, and get in there, half time, you know, have a good talking to, come out fired up, and we've seen it all too many times over the past season and a half. 5-10 minutes into the second half, it's almost like they've switched off, not fired up, and then, you know, all of a sudden, it's like Leicester, you know, 2 goals in 4 minutes. You know, even Liverpool, you know, all of a sudden there's a penalty in 5 minutes. And you're thinking to yourself, you've just come back on. You should be fired up, you know. And where I am on Ange, don't get me wrong, I'm still Ange in. And a lot of that is because I don't think we've got a lot of choice. Because injuries has been prevalent, and I get that. But also as well, we've got good enough players. We shouldn't be struggling against Tamworth.
Yeah.
You know,
Mark,
and
sorry, Mark, do you
okay.
think we can beat Villa? Bottom line, do you think we can beat Villa? Ollie Watkins is out, I believe.
Yeah, he is.
And I think that's the inconsistency, because you go into a game almost feeling not negative, but you're thinking you're nervous, you're unsure, you don't know what you're going to get, but you do know after about 10 minutes what sort of game it's going to be, because they're either on it or they're not, and I think that's what is quite worrying, because that team that played against Liverpool could go out against Villa and beat them 4-0, depending on how they are on that particular day. And you know, you saw how Liverpool play in respect to, as soon as they get the ball, it's one touch passing, they're moving the ball forward. We lumber over the ball for so long, turning, twisting, passing back, creating trouble, creating mistakes. And then when they've got the ball, like a lot of other teams, we just stand off them. I mean, sometimes I think Davies is going to actually fall back into the goal. He's tracking back that far instead of putting a challenge in. And this is the difference between us and a lot of other teams that I feel, watching every game, going to the home games, you know, regular home game goer. And I sometimes sit there at home and I even watch Aaron sometimes, not the game. And I think, I don't even think he's thinking, you're not doing what I'm asking you to do. And I think that's where some of his frustration comes from, because I think even he's thinking, I didn't ask you to do that. I'm asking you to push. I'm asking you to pressure. I'm asking a bit of intensity. And it's almost like you know, sitting back and just hoping that time goes by and we grab a couple of goals and we can walk off the pitch as winners.
Mark, what score prediction are you going for tomorrow, the Aston Villa match?
For tomorrow, I think it will be, and I'm going to go by halves for you, just for a change. I think it will be 2-1 first half to Aston Villa, and I'm hoping that they come out fighting and we beat them 3-2.
Can I just ask you, Mark, lastly, if Spurs lose that game against Aston Villa, do you expect or do you want Spurs to make a change with Ange Postecoglou?
If there was somebody else in line like Poch, I'd welcome him back with open arms. You know, and I even seen him on Instagram the other day at home, you know, with Ozzy Ardiles and all those sort of people having
He's
to
in
get
London
together
today as well.
Yeah, you know, just having a, you know, just like he needs to come home, and the sort of the hopeness that I've got inside of me is that he's keeping Ange until he's free to come back.
The hopeness, I think you've made up a new word there, Mark, but I know exactly what you mean.
I'm trying to. I've lost all other words. Yeah, I'm just very hopeful that, you know, but no, I think even getting rid of Ange doesn't change anything. And, you know, what do you want, right? Ryan Mason back in, and it's just a rinse and repeat again, isn't it? And then spend the next 4 or 5 minutes trying to find a manager. We're still in the same place. I'd rather have consistency in Ange's inconsistency as a manager.
Yeah. Mark, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Hopefully. Have a good one. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks, Bye.
Bye.
I tell you what, Craig, I feel like that's where I feel with it at the moment. I don't know how to feel about Ange, because I love Ange Postecoglou's football. If we have a fully fit squad, I think that we've got a real chance in doing something. But with all of these injuries, and I've got to say as well that it's been widely reported about these, you know, huge training sessions under Postecoglou. I actually think it's the other way round. You know, Ange has said it in the last couple of press conferences, including yesterday's, that, you know, some of the journalists could fill in and do the training sessions right now. I feel like they're very light training sessions, not intense training sessions like people are saying and thinking. It's not like that at all. And he's saying the players are hardly trained in the last couple of months. And I tell you what, that makes me worry. You know, it goes from one scale to the other.
Yeah, I think he's probably finding that happy balance, and you just can't have it at the moment for a variety of reasons. One being we've always had a game every 4 days since beginning of December, more or less. So they can't train. They're going to be at least 1 day of that, perhaps even travelling back 1 day, sort of like very light, just warm down sort of training session. Then we've got all the injuries, so you've got to protect the players that we've got available, and then they're getting ready for the next game. So yeah, I don't buy into this training sessions being, which manager was it had Terror Tuesdays? Do you remember that? I can't remember what manager that was. It might have been Jerry Francis, I think it was actually Terror Tuesdays. Yeah.
And Christian Gross had them running around in a car park before away matches. I remember having Darren Anston on the podcast saying that they went to away games and he would literally have them out, whatever hotel they stayed in, they'd be out on the road, they'd be out, climbing up hills and all sorts, doing all sorts of weird training sessions. And the players were like, what the hell are we doing? But Pochettino's training sessions, they were intense, incredible.
Brutal.
Yeah.
So was Conte's at the beginning of the season.
Exactly.
Harry Kane throwing up, and I don't think it's to do with training. I think very quickly before I bring the next guest on, if you're asking me, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's probably bad luck. I've got to be honest. There's a lot of bad luck. You've got to have a lot of luck in football, and Liverpool have had really good luck this season. Don't get me wrong; they've got a cracking squad, but they've had a couple of injuries. Trent's out at the moment. But that Bradley lad comes in and he's a brilliant player. So you can't. He's right. Angie's right. That's what I agree with him. You can't do anything with any team. I don't care what team you are. If you've got 11, 12 first choice, first team players out, it's just not possible.
Do you know? Thinking back to my youth days of playing football, there were times when the manager would say to us about meeting at the beach, and we all knew when we were meeting at the beach, all we were going to be doing is running. And it's funny because one time, like, there used to be about 25 of us turn up for football training, and I think there was one time where the manager said, "Oh, meet at the beach, 9 o'clock, blah blah blah." 4 people turned up because they knew that it was just running. We were running up the slopes, running down the slopes, doing all sorts of running. But of course, when it was the football ones, so he used to always say, "Meet at the field," and then it'd take us to the beach and do the running. So it backfired on the players. But yeah, I remember those days. Jerome writes here, I've seen those abject performances under Pochettino in the Champions League final, Mourinho at Zagreb, Conte semi-final against Chelsea. There's a fundamental issue with the players. With the pressure. It's funny, Craig, because you would have seen yesterday, I re-uploaded the Antonio Conte rant at Southampton, and it's funny because you said to me, it could have been yesterday. What's changed since that time?
Not much. If you watch that, that's exactly, I meant exactly what I said. You could have uploaded that. And it could relate to now, couldn't it? Almost all of his comments, the history of Tottenham is this. That's the famous one that he said. But, they don't want to play under pressure. They don't want to play under stress. And it's exactly right. And it's the same old story. And it's weird because it's not the same players as it was 5-6 years ago since Poch left. That's the worry.
Different, yeah.
Is it the culture within the club? Is it something that's buried deep in the fabric of this club? Something, and I don't know what that something is, but is there something buried intrinsic within the fabric of Tottenham Hotspur that creates this? I don't even know. I haven't even got the words to describe it, but you know what I mean, where it kind of feeds and breeds into everybody that plays for Tottenham Hotspur, that we are, perennial losers, that we fall at the last hurdle, that we can't quite get over the line. I mean, let's face it, we get bantered by every single club. We even get bantered by bloody Domino's Pizza, for Christ's sake, or Specsavers. Everybody banters us. And we all take it. I'm sure most fans, I get messages every week, almost every day on the groups I'm in, taking the mickey out of Tottenham. And you just have to take it on the chin and laugh with it. Because if you let it get to you, I'm of an age now where it just goes over me. But if you let it get to you, Christ almighty, you'd end up in a mental asylum, because we are bantered by everybody. And I can see Stu Miller in the chat there nodding, and Steve and Liam, and they're all agreeing, because they've probably had the same messages I have. I had one the other day that Spurs are being, the next season sponsors are Pampers. I don't know if anybody had that. But I won't even say what the message was, but it was, you can imagine.
I was going to say, where are you going with this? Perhaps don't go there.
I'm not even going to mention it, but it's things like that. You get pictures. You get the one of the baby crying with the Tottenham shirt, that your dad's giving him a Tottenham shirt for Christmas. It's the same thing. And I think we get a majority of banter from other clubs. Paddy Power, yeah, absolutely. Enrique in the chat there. Paddy Power is the worst at banter in Spurs. They've done whole videos on it. Oh dear, who'd be a Spurs fan, eh?
Just before we bring Liam in, for those of you watching on YouTube, X, Facebook and Twitch, if you go to the YouTube link on this video, you can actually join us now to come on, give your thoughts on Tottenham, whether you want to rant about Spurs, whether you want to talk about the Liverpool game on Thursday, whether you want to talk about tomorrow's game, whether you want to talk about the future of Ange Postecoglou and the future of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Click on the link and it'll be great to have you on. Liam, let's come to you now. Liam, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you both?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
Liam, cool.
Good.
Liam, how are you feeling about tomorrow?
No, I don't really know how to feel. It's this club, innit? Everything about it at the minute is we could. I think Craig said it earlier on. We could go in tomorrow and win like 4-0. That's the thing with this team. We get battered in the week, don't even show up. Tomorrow the exact same players could show up. Spence, I think, summed up perfectly the other day. We needed fight, a lot more fight. And that's exactly what we needed. We just didn't show up.
It's important, Liam, isn't it? It's important that a player like Jed Spence actually comes out and says it exactly how it is, rather than, how many times, how many years have we seen that same old message? We go again, must try harder, blah, 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 blah. We saw it with Hugo Lloris, Harry Kane, I know they've got to toe the line. They've got to say certain things, but, when it's the same old stuff again and again and again, you're like, oh, come on. I feel like it's important sometimes, like, Jed Spence addressed it and said, we need to do better.
Yeah, 100%. Because I also think that shows accountability. And that's exactly, after a performance like that, it's exactly what us fans, I think, want to see. Accountability for not showing up. The amount of money they're on and the amount of money fans spend, like you do, Chris, to go up and down the country, all around Europe to watch Spurs. And they just literally didn't play for the badge at all. So I think players should take kind of a leaf out of Spence's book and come out and just say it as it is. Because I think the fans appreciate that more than just the same old, rhetoric that's always put out there.
Liam, do you? I saw you nodding away when I was saying about buried intrinsically in the fabric of the club. What are your feelings on that then? Because obviously, I've spoken to many Spurs fans and they think the same. What are your feelings on it?
I 100% agree. I think, my dad and my granddad told me about Spurs in, the 80s. My granddad watched Spurs in the 60s. Winning side with winning mentality. That's what Spurs were, a proud winning side. We were FA Cup. I think we had won most FA Cups at one point before, Arsenal and everybody else overtook us. We had winning sides. I think it's since Levy's came in, if I'm honest. I think it's just, I'm very much Levy out. And I think it just sums up the 20 odd years of Levy in charge. Watches for just getting to semi-finals, just getting there is good enough. I think that's what's buried deep down in this club. It's just getting there is okay, but you never actually have to go over the line. So it's like failure is almost accepted at Spurs, and I just think that is from the board all the way down.
That's failure accepted at Spurs. That's a perfect way of describing it. We've mentioned that, Chris, before, haven't we? About how leadership comes from the top and the ethos, I suppose, it's got to come from Daniel Levy and the board, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And they, Go on,
Yeah.
go on, Liam.
Oh, sorry. Our literal motto is to dare is to do. And at the minute, we're not daring or doing. Like, we're going into each season, all the fans always so much hope, but there's never any fight from the players. You know, like Thursday night, we get there to a semi-final. It's like, that's just good enough. You know, we're going to try and sit and then just ride our luck and get to the final. That's what it's been for years, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Liam, what do you make of the way that Ange set up on Thursday? Because, you know, the way that he sees it is like, you know, the players are doing everything they possibly can. He completely dismissed the fact that, you know, the players didn't give fight or show passion. He's saying clearly that these players are absolutely exhausted. They're knackered. They're playing every single game every 3 to 4 days. Do you know what? I don't know how to feel about it at the moment, because like I said earlier to Craig, I feel like when Andrew's got the fully fit squad, we can play some really attractive football, some nice football. Everyone enjoys it, etc., etc. But these injuries have just been such a problem this season, which it just looks like it's going to continue throughout. Yes, we've got players coming back, but you know, we all know how long are they going to be back for. Richarlison, of course, come back. He's now injured. It now looks like he's going to be out for some time. Mickey van der Ven, we thought he was back, and now it looks like he's going to miss a number of games. How are you feeling right now about Postecoglou?
I just think, like, I get the players aren't robots, and I get, you know, the same players are playing week in, week out. But there's also a part of me, like, they're professional footballers. We're, you know, one of the richest clubs in the world. We have everything you could possibly want. You know, all the best rehab equipment. You know, those chambers they go in to, like, recover. You know, literally the best, supposedly the best physios in the world as well are supposed to be at Spurs. You know, some of the best. I think they literally have everything we could possibly have to stop the players from getting injured. Everything to aid rest and recovery for games, you know, to get your fitness levels up. I don't think them being tired is really an excuse, in my opinion. I just think that's a poor kind of excuse for just the players' failure to actually show up in games.
Liam, last question for you. What have we got to do to beat Villa tomorrow? What sort of team we got to put out, and give us your score prediction?
We've got to score more goals, Craig.
Yeah.
I
preferred it when you was ill.
I personally can't stand Bentancur or Basuma in that midfield. I think they're just so easy to nudge off the ball. I think Bergvall Sarr would... I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that. I know than maybe Bentancur or a Basuma, but one of them, not both of them. I think that's just too defensive. It doesn't offer enough. Bergvall and Sarr, in my opinion, offers more going forward. I think you got to start them two at least. I think maybe even start Mikey, because Son, I know he's our captain, but he hasn't been showing up. And Moore has pace, he has energy, enthusiasm going forward. That's what really frustrated me the other night, that Moore came on in like the 81st minute. It was like he really could have made a change if he's bang on earlier. I think he has to start instead of Son. And then really, who do you put up front? I completely lost as to who we play there. Maybe Moore up front then and Son on the left. But yeah, I think we just got to go attacking and just go out for it.
I think Tell's got to go up front now, hasn't he?
Yeah,
surely.
good point. Yeah, Tell. Forgot about Tell. Yeah, I'd like to see him start. Yeah, that would be good to start.
Well, Liam, enjoy your weekend. Try to enjoy the Villa game on Sunday, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, good to speak to you both. Bye.
Cheers, and you.
Bye.
Yeah, of course, Tell is going to be our forward now, I think, Craig. And you know,
let me tell you something.
Players like him and Danso, I tell you what, we do not need injuries to either of those, or any more injuries for that matter.
Absolutely.
Let's go now to Stu. Stu, great to talk to you again. How are you?
Evening, lads. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Hope you're doing well as well.
All good.
Stu, what do you make? What do you make of the past week? Of course, we beat Brentford. Everyone was on a high, especially the way that we won, and then going into that Liverpool game, some people were confident, but of course, you know, out of the Carabao Cup, we're in FA Cup action tomorrow. How are you feeling about that one?
We'll probably win, because you know that's the inconsistent stop-start season that we've been having. But we're still masking a lot of the real issues at the club, and thank you for actually talking about those very recently. The more I've thought about it recently, the more I liken Spurs to, imagine if you were a salesperson looking for a job and you had two options. You had a highly successful, demanding company that was paying, commission only, but you get the really big money, the really big sales. And then you've got another company that's paying, high salary, but they're not asking that much of you. And that's Spurs. That is what we are. We are not demanding these players to come in and win things. And I've been listening to the last couple of callers and you guys, and you've kind of been saying the same thing in a different way. This is not a new thing. And if we just keep going on about the manager, we are ignoring the central issues of the club. And, as we talk to death, we know that starts at the top.
I think, Stu, I think the reason why everyone talks about that so much is because that is the most realistic change.
Sure. It's the easiest thing to do. It's the easiest person. It's one person to change out the club, get a new one in, blame it on them, scapegoat them. And of course, we haven't had a season as bad as this in the league for a long time. So I understand question marks have to be asked about the manager. Absolutely. But if you look at what he's had to deal with and the long-term vision that I think he does have for the club, you can't be expecting that to be turned around in 1 or 2 seasons. I think we've just got a lot of short-term thinking, and that's the modern world. I get it, but I don't agree with it. I think we should be saying, we've brought this guy in. We should be giving him 4 or 5 years, regardless.
Stu, I know you're just jumping in there. I've been doing full 180s on Ange for the last 2 or 3 days. I really have. I've gone from thinking his time's up to which really does hurt me to say that, because I want this to succeed for Ange so much, because as Chris has said, I love his football. I think he talks well to the players from what I've seen. I think, this rubbish, this nonsense, this belief that he just stands on the sidelines with his hands in his pockets. He doesn't. We just don't get to see it unless you're at the stadium. If it's on the telly, they seem to show, and I can't remember where I saw this, but it might be an Ali Gold talking about it, that they seem to pinpoint the moments when he's got his hands on his knees, when he's down on his haunches, when things are going bad. And the media have been quite rough on
Craig. There are a lot of clips I've posted of Ange being very animated on the sideline. So if people want to see it, it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course. Yeah, the Ange cam. Yeah, but he's not as animated as Conte. I get that, or perhaps Mourinho. But each manager's different. But I've gone 180 completely many times with this. I'm still at a point now where I don't think they should sack him at the moment, because what is going to happen? They might bring a manager in. It's likely to be an interim manager, and you might get Ryan Mason. I don't know. I just don't. I think you've got to see it to the end of the season and reassess, personally, regardless.
Yeah. I think there are question marks. Someone said, is he getting the best out of the players available to him? I think it's a fair enough comment when we're getting deep into the squad, which is a weak squad overall in terms of depth, of quality, leadership, personality. We do have a weak squad. Could another manager get a little bit more out of, with a different system, out of these weaker players? I think probably so. But is that what we want in the long term? Is that what we want? Just someone to get a job out of weaker players to get a slightly better position than what we're in now? Or do we want someone that's trying to rebuild in the Spurs vision, in the Spurs mould of Tadeu's to do, of playing attacking football, which undoubtedly is Ange's vision? What do we want to do here? Are we just going to keep churning out, managers, just turning them out every 18 months, 2 years? Fine, if that's what you want, just keep saying manager out. But until we give someone a chance legitimately for, a proper rebuild, which we are in the early stages of still, we're buying a lot of young players. He has brought Gray and Bergvall. We talked about leadership. they do seem to have that kind of fight and potential leadership in them, but they're 18 years old, so we can't look to them for that yet. This is for years to come.
That is a really good point, Stu, and I'm so glad you brought that up. For the short term, I completely agree. Can a manager come in now and get better results now? I think yes is the answer. You would get that new manager bounce, it'll change a couple of things, blah, blah, blah. But for the long-term future, and Angie's always talking like he's going to be here for a very long time, which is quite unusual because he himself, during his career, he only stays at places for a couple of years and then he moves on. But I feel like this is a huge project, a big project, one for the future, with the amount of youngsters and the amount of top talent that we are bringing in. And I know the club have taken a lot of bashing in recent times, certainly in the last couple of months with these results and with the league position. But with that long-term planning with a lot of these younger players, it is exciting for the future. But again, Stu, a lot of fans at the moment, they want the success now because, how long have we been without a trophy? How long have we been without success? I do get all of that frustration. I'm one of the glass half full people who, like to see the best in things and like to see the best in the future at the football club. But with all of that said, the results in the league, they must improve because we can't be sitting 14th in the Premier League table. And I do fear as well that if it is a bad result tomorrow and we do go out of the cup against Villa, a week going out of 2 cup competitions and, the media already banging on about it. I've already seen posts from a number of the, huge media outlets saying, I always win something in my second year, mate. They love that line when of course we've gone out of a cup competition. But how are you feeling about Ange right now? You want him to stay? You want the fans and you want the board to give him patience? Then?
Yeah, it's not just a case of who else would we bring in, though that is a factor. Who would we bring in? Poch, he's just taken a new job with the national team. And that there is a lot of romanticism as well there. I love Poch to death. Perhaps he'll come back in the future, but if he came in now, he hasn't got the players that he had at his disposal then, and he hasn't got the leaders that he had at his disposal then, and I think he would struggle. I think pretty much any manager would struggle. Again, perhaps someone could get us a few higher positions in the league. Is that all we're striving for, or are we actually trying to rebuild properly? And I think that obviously in the day and age of the internet and very fickle kind of short-term thinking that the media kind of feeds on, I know people just want everything now, but that's not how it works. Newcastle got relegated and took years to get rid of their bad ownership and build it back up again. And look how they're flying now with the right structure in place and players who seem to be able to fight for their team. I mean, to be honest with you, second half of the Liverpool game, I was ashamed. I was purely ashamed. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror, let alone look at the players on the pitch. I was just like, what am I doing here as a Spurs fan? I can't keep seeing that. We do have to keep the rebuild going, keep clearing out these players that are not able to fight on the pitch. And that will take longer. It'll take another 2 or 3 years probably to do it properly, at least. But are we going to be that patient?
Yeah. Last question for you, Joe. Joe, I'm sorry, Joe. The reason I call you Joe, you are a dead spitting image of our mechanic that sorts my wife's car.
It's the nicest thing anyone's ever called me. Trust me.
Honestly, a dead spit of him. I genuinely thought, is that Joe? Has he changed his name? Is his real name Stu? Joe, whatever your name is. Give us a score prediction for tomorrow, and can we somehow get past Villa and get a favourable draw in the next round, hopefully?
Yeah, I think we could do a number on them. I think it could be 3-1. Do you know what I mean? We could also lose 4-0. Who knows? And I know that's a bit of a cop out, but I'm going to go positive because we do seem to be able to turn out the odd result. When the odds are against us. So I'm going to go 3-1. You know, up until the Liverpool goal, if I just might add to that just briefly, I was kind of, you know, okay, we set up very defensive. By the way, Ange would have got slammed if he'd gone out all out attacking, and we conceded 3 goals in the first half. So, you know, he did adapt. He did try to set out his stall, frustrate Liverpool. And we were kind of doing that for the first half an hour. And I was like, okay, but we've still got another hour of this. Can we really hold out? You know, first goal went in, second half, you know, we capitulated and it was embarrassing. But we can do that. So I'd like to see us be a little bit pragmatic to start the Villa game. You know, take our time to build up into the game, and then go for it. But honestly, I don't know what these players are going to do on any given day. So I'm going to go 3-1. Sorry, that was a long answer, but it could easily be 5-0 Villa. Do you know what I mean?
No, thanks, Stu. And I've still got that rattle under the car, so I'll bring it in Monday. All right.
Yeah, mate. I'll get the wrench out.
Thanks,
Stu. Have a great weekend. Nice to talk to you. Speak to you soon.
Cheers, boys. Have a good one.
Hello.
Joe. My God.
So, honestly, spookily looks like him so much.
We're now going to go to Des. Des, great to have you here. How are you? Des, I think we just got you on mute, I think. Hello? No,
nada.
Des, we'll come back to you in a second. If you sort the sound out, we'll come back to you in a second. We will go to Stephen. Stephen, how are you?
How you doing, boys? Long time no speak. I've been watching, but I've had a bit of the man flu, and I'm sounding like death. But first off, positive note. Congratulations, guys, on winning that award. Well,
thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Yeah, that will soothe any sore throat, make any throat.
We've won a
better.
trophy. We've won a trophy this season, haven't we?
That's it. We can go home now. Yeah,
we've won 2.
It's been an absolute nightmare, isn't it, guys? I mean, I've never been so depressed. I can't think the last time I was this depressed after that Liverpool game. And like Craig, I've been Ange out for a while, but I'm starting to think now. What are we going to do? I mean, I did hear something the other day. Now, you'll know this better than me, Chris. Is it Jeff Scott that worked at Tottenham?
Yeah.
But he apparently, insiders have said, you know, that he fell out with Ange over how the players were being trained. Yeah. And he left the club. Now, because I've always had this thing, these injuries, is Ange doing something wrong? You know, not just him, but the medical staff. So that's been worrying me. But also, I mean, I've the transfer window. I mean, didn't we, late on it? And I mean, I had a song for Daniel leaving. It was like Daniel, you know, Daniel is putting his cash in the bank, you know, putting our cash in the bank, but he won't buy any players because Daniel ain't worth a wank. I had all these lyrics for Daniel Levy. It was a great song, but I can't really sing at the moment because my voice is a bit short, and I don't want to. It's his birthday today, Daniel Levy, isn't it? Happy birthday, Daniel, mate. Yeah, right. Let's get that one out of the way. But lads, what we're going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow is all that matters. Forget the Liverpool game, mate. It's gone. You know what? I don't like to tempt fate. I really don't like to tempt fate because it's like in reverse. If you predict we're going to lose, we might win. So I think we're going to lose tomorrow 5-0. You know, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But seriously, I mean, what do you guys think about tomorrow? I mean, first, just before I go on to that, guys, the relegation thing. Now, I'm a very superstitious guy. I'm very superstitious. You know, as the great. As it's not late yet, but the Stevie Wonder once sang, it is the year of the snake. Now, in 1977, it was the year of the snake, and we went down, and it's the year of the snake again. It's basically based on the lunar calendar, and the new moon enters Aquarius sort of January, February time, and it lasts for about 12 months. We're in the year of the snake. Are we going to go down like we did in 77? Because every 12 years it repeats, and bad things happen for Tottenham. Like in 77, in 89, Arsenal won at Anfield, didn't they, to win the league, and then onwards and upwards. And now it's 2005, the year of the snake. I'm really worried. We could still go down, but I'm praying that all this superstitious nonsense isn't real, as much as I like to believe in it. But what do you think about tomorrow? Do you give us a hope tomorrow? Because we have got a good record at Villa, haven't we?
Yeah, we do. But But to be honest, Stephen, your answers and you coming on this show is like Tottenham this season. I just don't know what to expect. I just don't know what to expect at all.
It was like, going back to the Daniel thing, it was Dictator Daniel, you are killing our club, but you don't feel the pain or the scars that we feel. Our club is dying. Can't you see us crying? Daniel, you're But no, look, I don't want to give Levy too much. He's got enough grief. Let's give him a day off on his birthday. Cheers, Daniel. It's the other thing with this Daniel thing. It's like Daniel. I can see Daniel waving goodbye. There'll be no tears in our eyes. Manchester United, big protest there, isn't there? I don't know if you saw Brian Daigle had this epic rant. It was awesome. He had this amazing rant. Crackers had an amazing rant about Daniel Levy, and I'm not saying all that he's done for the club has been bad. He has built the most magnificent stadium, but it's like having a great house with no furniture in it. He's done all these signings way too late, and I just don't know where we're going anymore. I'm really worried, but I'm trying to be positive. I mean, but
do you know the sad thing, Stephen? Sorry, just to jump in there. Pochettino was the one that coined that phrase, didn't he? It's all very well having a nice house without the furniture. Do you think? Because I've thought about this a lot over the last few weeks. Had we backed Pochettino, had we got over the line in that Champions League final, had we won that Champions League final, I think the future, the next 5 years up to this point would have been vastly different had they brought in those players, because players would want to come to Tottenham. We'd have been at that top table again, wouldn't we? Rather than just visiting. Do you think that was the sliding doors moment? The slide. That's a perfect description. The sliding doors moment.
The thing is, with Poch, and we were unlucky in that final. I don't care what anybody says. Salah took a dive, and I'll tell you what, I was so angry at Carragher the other night. Did he forget we never win big games? Did he forget about when we beat Ajax 3-2? One of the
thing is, though,
of my life.
The thing is, what I think a lot of people forget is that had we won that Champions League final, I think Pochettino would have left.
It's a good point, Chris, and he might well have done, because what he did, Pochettino, was miraculous. It was like walking on water. It was miraculous. And I think Levy, he felt, I'll get Mourinho in. Mourinho win us a trophy. I'll get Conte in. Conte. And no, I think they've had their day, those guys. And like I said, we had about Nuno. I think Nuno, those doing well at Forest, there isn't the pressure. And I still think Areola's the guy for us. I don't think Poch will ever come back, sadly, because I think he's fell out. I don't think Daniel Levy liked what he wrote in his book, did he? I don't think he liked what Poch wrote in his book. And I think, because Poch wanted to come back to us, didn't he? Before he got the Chelsea job, he was actually begging to come back to Tottenham, from what I've heard. And
I think what it was, Steve, I think what it was with Pochettino, with Daniel Levy, was he brought in Jose and Conte. Because, to be fair to him, he probably listened to the fans and they decided to do a 180 and bring in these win now managers. The trouble with that is that's all and fine and well, but you've got to give these win now managers the players.
Money. And they need the money.
Exactly.
I think whoever comes in for us has got to be able to cope. Now, I think Ange, although he's quite a robust character, I think Levy sees him as a little bit of a yes man, because he never complains. And credit to him for that, because I thought when Conte threw us under the bus, when he he said all the players were going, Harry Kane, what he did for that club, no way. I think Conte threw us under the bus and he was a disgrace. And I was glad when Conte left. I thought that probably one of the worst things was sacking Mourinho before the City final. I never understood that, because I think Mourinho's the sort of guy, he probably would have won us that, being the sort of guy he is, even though I think he was a bit of a busted flush. But I'm sort of thinking now, because you get the siege mentality, don't you, now? Because I've had thoughts in my head, horrible thoughts, getting to like really dislike Ange because of the injuries, and I feel bad about it, but he's still a Tottenham manager, and I feel, and Spurs fans arguing with each other. I saw Barnaby and G Moore having this argument.
Oh, that was a Barney, wasn't it?
And I took Barnaby's side on that, because I thought, look, we all lose our rag. I've done things and lost my rag that I'm not proud with. Sometimes I said horrible things, but I thought, Barnaby was in the right there. But anyway, we all make mistakes. G Moore, sorry, mate, if I called you something nasty, but nothing personal, mate. We're all Tottenham in the end. Let's all stand together. Let's get the siege mentality now. Look, if Ange loses tomorrow, I fear he might get the bullet. And it sounds a bit hypocritical because I was saying I wanted to get the bullet after the Liverpool game, after the Everton game. I wanted him gone, but I'm trying to give him the benefit of that because I don't want it. I want him to succeed like you, Chris. I want him to succeed so bad. I want him to do it. Nothing will give me greater pleasure to look an absolute bloody idiot, which I probably do now, and be proven wrong. And Ange wins the FA Cup and wins the Europa League, and he says, "Yeah, mate, it's what we do. All the people who put me down, it's a bloody pockets, mate. We got it in the bank." You know, so I want Ange to do it. And I hope to God tomorrow that he does. And I think he mustn't get caught in a rock and a hard place. I think what's happened at Anfield the other night, he got caught in a rock and a hard place. Like you said, Craig, he'd have been, or someone, the guy before said, he'd have been slaughtered if he'd have gone for it. And when it was get to like, you know, I never want to see Basuma in a Spurs shirt again. I've had it with him now. How many times has he given the ball away? And I don't want to see him playing for Spurs again, Basuma. I'm done with him. I think we should get rid of Richie at the end of the season. We've got to start getting players now that can stay fit. Apparently, I heard that when they got the replacement for Klopp, one of the things they checked on Liverpool was the injury record of the guy that we wanted. My mind's gone, the Dutchman at Liverpool now, Slot. They checked his injury history. And my main concern about Ange is the injuries. That has he brought some of this on himself? And with Jeff Scott supposedly having this argument with him before he left, that is my biggest worry about Ange, is the injuries, that he might have brought some of it, not all of it, some of it on himself. But he's proved that he can adapt. Look at Brentford. And that when that nice shine Jamie Carragher up, then, you know, when he won at Brentford 2-0, that was a great night, you know. And then it was followed by that Liverpool debacle, because I stayed in bed all day. So I was so depressed about it all. And I only just got up today. I've been so depressed with that Liverpool game and all the Liverpool gloating fans. And I'm getting you start to hate Scousers, and this shouldn't do, because, I mean, John Paul, George and Ringo, mate. I love the Beatles, so I don't want to hate all guys about. But Jamie Carragher, I'll see you next Tuesday, mate. You're up. So Jamie Carragher, mate, I would love it, to quote a great Liverpool player when he was City manager, I would love it if we meet Liverpool in the FA Cup and we turn them over at Anfield.
Stephen,
guys, love you guys. And
thank you so much.
Your channel, well deserved. Come on, you Spurs.
Thank you. We'll speak to you soon.
What a character.
This is the only thing about doing live shows, and this is the only thing about inviting everyone on. You never ever know what's going to be said. Absolutely
love Stephen, I have to say.
We're going to go back to Des. Des, how are you? Oh, we still can't hear you, Des. Des, we'll come back to you in a second. See if you can sort the sound out. We're now going to go to Chris. Chris, good afternoon. How are you?
All right, guys. How are you?
Yeah. Disappointing. Obviously, a disappointing Thursday against Liverpool. You know, us not in the final of the Carabao Cup, which everyone had hoped for. But how are you feeling ahead of the Villa game on Sunday?
Well, as Steve said before, we've got a good record of it, haven't we? You know, we've won there a few times. So I think we could. I think we could get a result there. I really do think we could go and win it. Purely because that record is one of our. We're like a bogey team from at their place, aren't we? A bit like we are for Liverpool at Anfield. But yeah,
why do you think that is? Why do you think that is, Chris? That we go. I mean, Chris has spoken about it. I've spoken about it. Why do you think there's certain grounds, certain places, Anfield being one of those, Stamford Bridge being another one, the Emirates being another one? Why do you think, with teams of different players, year after year after year, we go to these places and come back with nothing? Do you think that's because, plain and simple, the team we're playing is better than us, or do you think they've got a mental block?
A bit of both, I think. I'll tell you. I mean, Liverpool are a bloody good side, aren't they? And not, if you think about it, not many teams go to Liverpool on a cup night and win there. It's a hard place to go and win. A lot of teams have gone there before us. But I think it's a bit of both. I think and the longer that spell goes out for us not winning, the tougher the mental side of it becomes. And I think that was part of the problem on Thursday. I don't think that our team thought they could go out and win that game Thursday night.
We're literally at bare.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Chris, we're literally at bare bones again. With Richarlison now injured again, Van der Ven. Andrew said it's going to be a slow process, him coming back. How are you feeling about the squad going into this Villa game? Because although Ange said that Dane Scarlett's available, he's actually cup tied because he's played in the FA Cup already for Oxford, so he won't be available. So we do assume that Tell will be the striker up top. How are you feeling about the team that Ange can use, the squad that he can use against Villa?
I think we've got. I don't know what to say really. It's tough, isn't it? Because the players, those players are on there. Some of those players you can see they are in desperate need of a rest.
Yeah.
And you just hope that they can find that little bit of motivation, that little bit of the FA Cup just gives them that little bit of adrenaline to go out there. But it's tough because if it goes to extra time as well, I think there's still extra time in the fourth round, isn't it?
Yeah. It's difficult though, isn't it? Because all of us fans are always demanding, give more, give more, give more. And just come out and said a number of times now, well, every player is giving 100%. Every player has got that passion. Every player has got that determination, etc., to win. But they're just exhausted. What more can they do? But of course, the frustration grows amongst the fan base.
That's right. I think Andy's being quite. I think in public, he's saying 100%. But I see some of those players, particularly Basuma, he just was strolling around like it was a training game, wasn't it, for him on Thursday night? He just seems like he's lost interest to me. I don't know. So. But the other players, like Kulusevski, Son, Porro, they just look dead on their feet, don't they? You can just, and that's when the mental mistakes start creeping in from, isn't it? Because they're tired and So that's my only worry for tomorrow. Is that the longer the game goes on, if it's tight, the longer the game goes on. If it's 0-0, 1-1, or drawing, I think that's what might undo us tomorrow. But then again, you're always worried about Tottenham. They go 2 or 3 up. What might happen as well, aren't you? So you never know.
Chris, when was the last time we played Ange ball? Would you say?
I can't remember. I cannot. I was thinking that while I was sitting here waiting, listening to the other guys on the call, thinking, when was the last time we did it? I can't really remember the last time we did it. I mean, you go to all the games, Chris. You must have a better idea than us, because obviously on the television you don't always see it. Otherwise, but I can't remember the game we did. Even when we beat Man City at their place, that wasn't tangible, was it?
Probably Southampton, I suppose.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, are you confident once all of our players do come back? Are you confident that there'll be a consistency in results and performances?
Well, I'm like you, Chris. I'm a glass half full man, and I might be in a minority, but I really do think we have got a good future. If you look at a lot of youngsters, after the Leicester game, I thought Andrew was out. I really thought the next morning, was to get the Sky News notification pop up. And sacked, but obviously he didn't. I think if they give him time and let him build that squad and give him a few more top quality players, I think the future is bright. I think it's going to take time. You can't buy instant success anyway. When we could sack him tomorrow, I mean, I don't know who we would bring in, because what managers are out there going to play? I don't know who play the way the football we want the team to play. But if you brought someone in and give him all this money we're apparently supposed to be able to spend without breaking PSR, it won't buy us instant success. It's no guarantee. But we could go and spend 300-400 million, couldn't we? But and still win nothing. I
think you're right. You're right because we bought Ndombele, we bought Lo Celso. Neither of them worked out really, did they? So
no
it's just unwise investment sometimes.
Well, I do fear that if we do lose tomorrow, I do think that could be the end of him. I think that's.
Do they bring in Ryan Mason again, though, Chris? If they do that,
I hope not. No. Not being disrespectful with Ryan Mason. I hope not. But who do they bring in? Because you can't bring an interim manager in, so they may have to, unless like with Pochettino, they've already got someone lined up ready to step
Do you know
in
what
should
I'd
they
do?
sack him.
Do you know what I'd do and I want Ange to stay certainly till the end of the season, and then reassess, like I said earlier. I don't see any point. But if they do you know what I'd like to see happen? I'd like to see Harry, and this won't happen, Harry Redknapp till the end of the season, and then go all out to get Pochettino back. But both of those is probably never going to happen.
No, they've both upset. They both upset Levy, haven't they? You know, and I mean, Levy. I'm not his biggest fan, and he does take a lot of stick. But don't forget, he's not the club owner, is he? It's not his money that the club are spending. I know he owns 30% of the club, but it's Enix's money that the club's spending. So they're the ones that really, they're the ones we should really getting frustrated with, because they're the ones who say, here's how much you got to spend. I'm sure that's not his decision alone. Yeah. I mean, they could sack him tomorrow and bring a new chairman in, but I still think the transfer policy would be the same, because that's how Edic want the club run, isn't it?
I'm just going to put this comment on from Sports Lover. Harry Redknapp has won how many trophies in coaching 100 years? So yeah, I don't think he's quite that old, but I get that. I'm more.
When he was manager of Portsmouth, they knocked us out in the semi-final, didn't they? So
they did, but I think Harry Redknapp is such a good man manager. I think he could pick up these players. Personally, I think he'd be a good choice, but that's just my opinion.
As an interim, to see us through the end of the season, and who knows? Yeah, with his, I mean, he's a good man manager, and he will certainly lift the players, wouldn't he? I think.
Yeah.
Chris, lastly, what did you make of the transfer window, in particular, Tell and Danso, and of course Kinski, because all three of them, played on Thursday. Two started, one from the bench with Richarlison going off injured. What do you make of their three performances and overall the signings?
I think they're good signings. Kinski, I think he looked a little bit. I think he was a bit overawed by the occasion on Thursday. I mean, up till then, he's looked pretty sound keeper. He looked a little bit nervous, didn't he? And a bit frantic. Kevin Danso, I think he's good. He looks like he's a big suits the mould for I think what he wants, what Ange wants, and I think he'll fit him well. And the Tell, he can play wing, he can play centre forward, so it'd be interesting. I think he'll probably start tomorrow with Charles not being on the Serie A. I think it's good. So if you think about it, we're better off than we were at the beginning of January. We didn't have anybody in Fury, so we are better off. Perhaps not the marquee signs that most of the Tottenham fans wanted, but then again, you don't really in January. It's tough to get the marquee signings, isn't it? And and when the window started, a lot of teams are still in Europe, wasn't they? Because there's no European games normally in January, is there? So all teams, so it's tough to buy. So tough window, January. If you're going, but I think could be good signings. They're what I would say typical Tottenham signings.
Yeah. Chris, thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers,
Cheers.
Spurs,
Right, we're now going to go all the way to Istanbul, Turkey, to speak to Orchi. Orchi, how are you?
I'm a bit despondent after that performance, Chris. I've got to be honest. It was just such a, I obviously when I saw the team news, I know obviously injuries, right? And I'm sick of talking about them, but you have to accept the reality. Yes, we have an injury crisis, and obviously I was hoping that maybe Van der Ven or maybe even Romero might make a surprise start, and they didn't. So I do feel for Ange. I really do. Like, what can he do when all these players are injured? But at the same time, he does sometimes, I feel he shoots himself in the foot even further, because when I looked at the starting lineup, I did wonder. I'm thinking, right, he's put Archie Gray on the right back, and hang on a minute, you've got someone like Jed Spence, who is naturally a right back. That's his actual position, even though he's been, covering left back for us. And you've got someone like Reguilon, who's also fit, and he's at least got some pace, even though, yes, you can argue that he can be dodgy sometimes as well. But in recent games when he's come on, he's done all right. So, what have you got to lose? Because I think Reguilon at left back it's more his natural position. So he probably would have done better, because as much as I love Archie Gray and he's done really brilliantly in this period for us, he's played so far. He's played centre back, he's played left back, and now you're asking him to play right back. And against Liverpool, he really looked like a boy. I mean, he is a boy. He's 18 years old, but in recent games he's looked a lot more mature than that. But that night he really did look like a bit of a boy. He looked like a rabbit caught in headlights a little bit in certain points and in certain goals. So choices like that, I did wonder. And then, as we said, obviously Bissouma was awful. Bentancur was kind of 50-50. So there are certain individual performances where I'm pretty sure Ange's sitting in that changing room going, well, all right, lads, we'll give it a good go. I'm sure he's proper, having his chat, having his talks, and he's famous for his, talks that he gives to the team, isn't he? So I'm pretty sure he was probably giving them quite a bit of a, G up, telling them to go for it. But then you can't account for those kind of, performances. So it was just, but, overall, I just wanted a bit more fight. I wanted us to, and it seemed like it was going all right in the first half. I mean, we were only 1-0 down first half. So I thought, yeah, maybe at halftime we'll go in, he'll have a good talk to them. And then when they come out, they'll come out fighting. And, second half was probably worse than the first half. And we just got, torn to bits, really. So it's really hard. You do feel like, if all of our, or majority of our players were fit, if you still had, even if we had Solanke, up top, who's good at holding the ball, who's good at, playing people in, and, it's really, and it makes you wonder what it's going to be like tomorrow, because apparently none of the injured players are going to be back. You just think, ugh.
Yeah.
But then, yes, we do have a good record at Villa, so you're trying to kind of cling on to little bits of hope. But
do you think Villa are going to go strong tomorrow, Balchi? Do you think they're going to? Because obviously they're fighting on other fronts, aren't they? Do you think they're going to put out a full team? I personally do, but yeah.
No, definitely, because they, I don't, again, Villa are. When you're looking at how well Bournemouth are doing, when how good Forest are doing, they're not doing as good as them this year. So they're probably, I mean, I put them like really, really outside chance of making the top four. So probably they're not going to make the top four. They might make European places, most likely. So a cup, if they can go far in the FA Cup, that's probably their only chance of winning silverware or getting something decent this season as well. But yeah, it's I've got a bit of a thought as well. Like these players that we have who have been fit for the last 2-3 months, right? And they've been playing 3 times a week. Now, how would you feel if you are, say, one of those players like, I don't know, even like Son and Bentancur and even the younger players? Again, I'm going to bring this kind of criticism, putting Ange to one side. If you're one of these players, you guys with previous speakers, you talked about the mentality and the kind of the way the club is run, and Levy, obviously. Now you look at what Manchester City did in this window, and now there's a club that is obviously serious about winning things and always challenging every single season, and they've probably had their worst start to a season in I can't remember how many years. So there they go at January transfer window, and they've brought in 2-3 players, and they even got rid of like Kyle Walker, who clearly didn't want to be there anymore. And then you look at us, and here we are. For the last couple of months, we've had this atrocious injury crisis. Whoever fault it is, whether it's Ange's fault, his training, or whether it's the medical team, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, you're having a crisis, injury situation, and all these players for several months have played 2-3 games a week non-stop. you know, if you're one of those players, you're looking at it thinking, well, yeah, you know, we have got this injury crisis. And I think we said it in a previous chat, even Romero kind of recently came out and, you know, talked about it. And he said, you know, club need to be more ambitious and all that, you know, he was kind of hinting at it really. You know, it's like these players are thinking, well, I'm busting my gut here playing every single game 3 times a week. And my chairman won't even, you know, as soon as the window opens, you know, we should have had 2, 3, 4 players lined up, even if they're not the top creme de la creme players, you know, just to at least of a certain decent level to come in and bolster this squad, which is absolutely threadbare. And when you see that your chair, whether it's the chairman or whether it's the board or whoever makes these decisions on how many players are going to come in, clearly, you know, we didn't bring the number of players that we needed. I mean, all right, we've got 2 players in, but probably we needed about 4 players this window, at least like 4 players to cover this injury crisis. And, you know, and so when the players are seeing that, they're probably thinking, well, why should I go and risk serious injury to myself? So even I've just got a feeling that even that would affect, you know, that maybe some of these players that are not playing, like I think the previous caller mentioned how Bissouma just kind of looked like he didn't care. And, you know, all right, they're professionals, they're earning a lot of money, but at the same time, we all know footballers have a very short lifespan. They've got what, 12 good years, and that's barring any serious like knee injuries or ankle injuries. And as we've seen, you know, we've got players dropping left, right, and center. So the players that are fit, they're thinking, well, I'm playing 3 games a week, and all right, I'm getting my, you know, starting bonuses and my, you know, playing bonuses and stuff. And if I score or if we keep a clean sheet, I'm getting that. So, but probably they also, you know, I would be worried. I'm thinking, well, I'm going to, you know, if I carry on like this, I might end up with a serious injury to myself. And then there goes my career for, you know, especially the younger players, you know. So, you know, I think there's just so many things. Like I would love to have just 60 seconds with genuinely like one-to-one with Daniel Levy, just to simply, not to be rude at him or not to, you know, have a go at him, but just say, Mr. Levy, can you just please make it clear, you know, black and white, who decides which play, you know, how many players come in and what the actual spending limit is, you know, like in a given window? Like, is there a limit? Do you guys talk? When you talk, do you say, right, this window maximum we can spend is 100 million or 150 million? And, you know, and who makes that decision? And also, you know, how do you get judged? Like, I mean, he has a boss, Joe Lewis or the ENIC board or the board of directors. What direction do they give you every season, or at the end of a season when you're being called in front of your boss or bosses, and they, you know, how are you judged? Are you judged on how much money, you know, how much profit the club has made this season, how the books are looking this season? Or do you ever get pulled up on, you know, the lack of silverware, the lack of wins, the lack of, you know, competing in serious stuff? Because I think that's a question. To me, that's the most important question. Because if the priority of the owners of this club is, right, if you make, I don't know, 200, you know, operating profit, 200 million operating profit this season, well done, you've done your job. If that's the direction that Daniel Levy is getting, it's no wonder that he is out there really taking more care of the business side of the club than the playing side of the club. Because that obviously, if that's second, that's what's second important to the actual owners, then this will continue. This is, you know, this trend that we've been on for the last 10, 15, 20 years is unfortunately, you know, unless that changes at the very top, it's just going to continue. Because, you know, if they're just happy for us to keep making like 100, 200, you know, million profits, and, you know, oh, well, yeah, we made the, you know, semi-final. Oh, actually, that's not bad. And then if we go, I don't know, let's say by some miracle, we beat Villa tomorrow. And we go quite far in the FA Cup. Let's say we make it the quarterfinals or the semi-finals. And then again, we lose. And then let's say once a few of the players come back, we climb up the league as high as, I don't know, European places, like, I don't know, 6th or 7th or 8th or whatever it's going to be. You know, is that regarded as a successful season? Because, you know, if the people at the top are saying, well, yeah, look, in 2 cups we made it to semi-finals, and then, you know, at least for next season we're in Europe. If they're looking at that as okay, that's not a bad season, then it's just, you know, it will just continue the same, I think. And that's what we need to understand. Well, that's what needs to be questioned, I think. That's what needs to be changed if anything.
Or
Chris,
do you know what?
Sorry, Chris.
I've
got to leave because we've got a restaurant booked, and I'm going to be in trouble if I don't go. But it's been a pleasure to speak to you, all the guests tonight, and you, obviously, and Chris. I'm going to have to leave you on your own to speak to the last two. So,
speak to you soon.
Pleasure as always. See you later.
See ya.
Archie, I'll tell you what, this is exactly the reason why we do these fan shows, for people like you coming on and giving your opinions and giving your thoughts on how you're feeling about the club. We have definitely got to get you on the main show, on the Spurs Chat podcast, on one of the aftermatch shows or one of the preview shows very soon. Yeah. How are you feeling about the Aston Villa game? Do you think we're going to win it? And how are you feeling about Ange Postecoglou? Because do you feel like Ange Postecoglou is under pressure from the club's perspective? Because he might be under pressure from, say, the media and the fans, but from the actual board, from the football club, do you feel like he is under pressure if he loses this game against Aston Villa? Because surely, if you're going to hit that reset button, you're going to back him to an extent. I feel like Ange Postecoglou has been backed in the transfer windows, if I'm honest. I feel like he's been backed even in this January window, bringing 3 players in. If you're going to do all of that, surely you're going to give him the time and the patience, aren't you? Regardless of whether we lose that Villa game or not. And it's interesting because when I listened to the press conference with Ange, he didn't seem to be thinking that he might get the sack if he lost that Villa game.
Yeah, he does come across as quite relaxed and kind of at peace. And I don't know if that's because, in private, they're giving him reassurances saying, look, listen, we appreciate, we have a terrible injury situation and we've managed to get in a couple of players, but we know that's not enough. So, whatever happens in these next sort of 5, 6, 7 games, until most or majority of the injured players are back, we're not really, you're not on some kind of, test, you'll probably, if he's been given that reassurance, look, we're going to wait till the summer. Let's see where we are come May. Once the players come back, and let's see what position we finish in the league as well. Then we'll have another chat, or we'll have a think about it. Don't worry about it, because, I'm pretty sure as a manager, even though he says publicly that, I don't think about that, I'm just concentrating on the next game. That's pretty much what he says in recent interviews that I've seen of him. Press conferences, that's what he said. And to me, that also makes sense, because he's already under pressure. He's in the public eye. A lot of people are mocking him. A lot of people are, saying he's not up to the job. So he's already I do believe, he's human at the end of the day. We all would feel like that, especially when, our mistakes and our failures are out there in the public. I'm pretty sure he's, he doesn't need anybody to, give him any kind of pep talk. I'm sure he's already fired up enough inside. He does want I'm certain of that. He wants the results to change. He wants to win some games. He wants to improve our league position. I'm sure he wants to win tomorrow, so at least we can get far in that cup, in the FA Cup. So, I think you don't need to put any more pressure on January. So I think from the people on top of him probably don't want to put any further pressure on him by saying, well, if you've got 2 games, and if you lose against Villa and then we lose against Manchester United, that's it, mate. We're going to have to make a change because, we lost confidence in you. I don't think they would say that, because, our injury, you can't ignore it's not just the number of players, it's the caliber of the players that are out for us at the moment, which is definitely having an impact, because even this season, we've seen him. Yes, we've gone to Manchester City, as poor as they've been in the first half of the season. Even when they're poor, maybe you'll beat them 1-0 or 2-0. But we went there and we put such a show on. And there have been games this season where we have really, absolutely, when Ange ball worked, as you say sometimes, it works really well. So I do feel, I don't know why, but I do get the feeling that I would imagine he's probably safe till around by Easter, maybe, or just after Easter, because, he's saying that a lot of, I think he gave like a list of about 5 or 6 players that are due back in the next week to 2 weeks. So when they come back, and obviously it takes another kind of couple of matches to get really match fit, So, I think they're probably going to look from United onwards, they're probably going to see how we are doing in the league, at least for next 3, 4, 5 games, and probably sort of sometime in by end of March, maybe beginning of April, they're going to look at the situation. And if it is still like we're losing a lot of games and we are definitely down there with the relegation lot, then I feel they might pull the trigger, and then we'll only have 6, 7 games left till the end of the season. And then what they'll probably do is put what's his name in charge. Oh, my mind's gone.
Mason.
Mason in charge until the end of Ryan Mason. They'll probably put him in charge, because I don't think if they sack him now, they're going to have to go in, because I don't think you can rely on Ryan Mason for such a large chunk of the season, because he's not really, he's more like a coach than a proper manager that they'll probably listen to. I mean, I wouldn't say, if the choice is Ange or Ryan Mason till the end of the season, I'd prefer to stick with Ange. Just from his experience and his age and everything else, I think he'd probably command more respect. Even if he's lost maybe half of the dressing room, there'll still be certain players that will still be playing for him, that will still probably be trying for him. So chances are he probably will, once majority of the players are back, he probably will start getting wins and points under the belt, on the board, if you like. So I think I personally, I get the feeling, I don't think tomorrow is if he loses tomorrow, it's the final nail in the coffin. I don't think, I'll be surprised if they did. But if they did, I would imagine, Levy would have had somebody, like when they sacked Pochettino, I think he already had Mourinho lined up. So I think he would have had his replacement at least until the end of the season lined up. But if not, then I personally think he's got probably till sort of late March to see, what happens once the players start coming back. If we start putting points on that board, then chances are he'll probably be safe till the summer, and then they'll probably look come May, end of May, they'll look at where we finish, and then they'll do a review, and then then, because it's only then, if you want to replace Ange and go for an Areola or a Thomas Frank, Brentford manager, or that type of, those sort of managers that everybody seems to really want. I think that's the time because you're not going to get those managers now. They're in the middle of the season, they're doing really well in their teams. They're not going to just drop it and come to Tottenham no matter how much money you offer, because I don't think they're those sort of managers. So if you do want to try your luck, even throwing lots of money at them, that summer's probably going to be the time to do it.
Audrey, you're always such a great guest. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you on again very soon.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for having me. Have a nice evening, and good luck to us. Come on, you Spurs for tomorrow. Come on. Let's win this match tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yep. Right, we're now going to go to Des. We're going to try Des for a third time. Des, can you hear me?
Hopefully you can hear me this time, Chris. Yeah.
Third time lucky. Yes, I can hear you perfectly well.
Excellent.
Des, whereabouts are you? Whereabouts are you in the world?
I'm up in York. It's just at home, just chilling out, to be honest. To and fro watching the Chelsea Birmingham game, which is 2-2, or it was 2-2 about 5 minutes ago. So yeah.
Des, how are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan?
It's hard to know what to think. It's all too easy to jump on Ange's back and then have a go at him and talk about all the failures. The place where we are at the minute as a football club is something that's been coming for 6 years, and I think kind of chatted earlier on. We talked about the pivotal moment being when Pochettino, obviously when they didn't win the Champions League, but I would pin it kind of a few years after that with Mourinho. When you have a serial winner coming up to a cup final, 6 days, getting rid of him 6 days in what was going to be a grudge match. If you can think about all the winding up and mind games that was going to go on with Guardiola, considering the history, and to sack him and replace him with a 27-year-old novice, it was just absolutely insane. And that's the moment for me where the media looked at the club, and probably a lot of the players come in and look and think, if that's what the owner does, if that's his attitude to winning things, Why should we care? Why should we put in the effort? Let's just go to that club and make some money, get injured, be fit whenever it comes to international games, and then get injured again. It's and I am having a go at one or two of the players here, because I do think there's not that kind of, I know with Van de Ven, some of the rumours with Mickey Van de Ven is that it might be a lot more long term, and it could be something kind of career threatening. Hopefully that rumours, there's no truth in that, but they're talking about a long term problem with the hernia. But there are some players that I would question whether they want to be in the first team or not once we're in this position.
Who are they?
Romero, definitely. Romero is always one for me. I mean, I know he did pick up that injury, in the Chelsea game, but he's always a player for me who, as much as he's a fantastic player, I think he gets sometimes injured too easily, and then you don't see him for weeks and weeks, and then an international match comes up and he's gone to it. He's suddenly fit again and back. So yeah, I know that's not going to be a popular opinion, but yeah, he's definitely one. And we've had it over the years. If you look at players like Sessegnon and players like that, the history is, these players, when it comes down to, do they really have the commitment to go out there? Sometimes not. So I think Ange has probably been a victim of his own success up at Celtic, and this is another huge thing for me with Ange. If you look, I know it's the Scottish League, and people say, you're talking a lot that the standard and the quality is a lot lower, but the fans absolutely loved him up there. After every game, you see them going over and saluting the crowd, and they would, whilst he was punching the air, they would cheer, and they still do it with Brendan Rodgers up there. But it never really happened. It's never really happened like Spurs. We've got this kind of, and speak as a season ticket holder, we've got this kind of arrogance of, come on in, on, show us what you've got, instead of getting behind him, shouting his name. We sang, I think people sang Angels for about 2 months, and then once the results started to dip, it was just, everything's Ange's fault, let's blame him for everything. And he, at times, I think it was mentioned earlier on, he doesn't do himself favours sometimes. I mean, instead of the way they played the other night, and someone mentioned about Jed Spence playing at right back, and Reguilon was on the bench as well. Why not use him? He's an experienced player who has won the Europa League and other competitions. Why not use him? Why keep him there instead of, I don't know. It's a strange situation sometimes, but I don't think, some of the problems are down to Ange, and are the injuries down to Ange? Possibly they are, but as a club, you should be able to cope with those sort of things. Manchester United had awful injuries last season. They still won the FA Cup, against all the odds. Sorry.
Without all of those injuries, Des, if Ange Postecoglou had a fully fit squad, where do you think Spurs would be? Where do you think we could be? How good are we? Are we good enough? Have we got a good enough squad to finish in the top 4?
I think we do have a good squad. If you look last Sunday, I mean, we played Brentford, and they've given a few teams tough games, especially Liverpool this season. And even the squad that we put out was professional, got the job done. There certainly is. There's players in there with a winning mentality. Even when you talk about Kinski, he may have come from the Czech league, but he's won things. We've got players like Mickey Van de Ven who have been successful with the Dutch team. Romero has won, I can't remember if he played or not. I think he did in the World Cup. Oh yeah, of course he played, because it was international. But joking. But yeah, you've got players in there who are winners, winning mentality. You've got young players, even like Archie Gray, who I'm always singing the praises of. He's came from a team who had one of the highest points total ever last season in the Championship, and were just purely unlucky that 2 teams were better. So there is players in there with winning mentalities, and we should be doing a lot better. We should.
Des, how do you see the season panning out now? Because of course we do have key games in the Premier League. Of course we've got this FA Cup game tomorrow, and then the Europa League campaign continues in March. Ange has always come out and said, always win trophy in his second season. Do you think Spurs can win a trophy? Do you think we will win a trophy this season? And the league position, does it bother you that Spurs are down in 14th? Because I said this a couple of weeks ago, or certainly before the Liverpool game and before we were out of the Carabao Cup, that while we remain in those cup competitions, some Spurs fans are probably a little bit more forgiving about that league position.
It actually it does. It deeply concerns me that we're down in 14th, and we were 16th before last Sunday. It's certainly a place where we haven't been for quite a long time, and I'm never ever going to give praise to Enoch, but you know, if you look at the years, the last 10, 13 years, Spurs have been a club where we've been consistently European football, finishing in high positions. So, you know, something is being done right at the club. The cup competitions, it's really hard to say. Tomorrow, different from the Liverpool game, they're going to have to really go for it tomorrow because the game finishes on the day. Whatever happens, it has to be won or lost. So there's no point going out with a conservative attitude. You know, maybe like against Liverpool, there was a thought, if we can keep it 0-0 for 60 minutes, steal a goal, win with a shot. We can't do that tomorrow. We're going to have to. It's going to have to be Ange's ball tomorrow against Villa. Someone mentioned earlier, just going back to Ryan Mason and stuff. I mean, I think we're just going to have to see it out with Ange. There's no point sacking him. You know, we're not gonna get relegated realistically. He has to be given the chance to get to the end of the season at least. Ryan Mason, if they did get rid of Ange, I can't. If say we lost against United next week, you know, and Ipswich or Leicester pull some points back, then we are back in a relegation fight, and I can't see there's any way they would give it to Ryan Mason. The previous two times we were in comfortable positions, there was no danger of relegation, but I don't see if that's a risk they would take. Someone kind of intimated earlier that someone lined up, and if you think of Fabio Paratici, and he obviously has Levy's ear, and you know he's probably going to be keeping whispering in his ear, Allegri, which wouldn't go down well with the fans because they would see it as Conte 2.0.
There's last question, and we're going to take this point here from one of the viewers now, Andrew. Thanks for your comment, Andrew. A true Tottenham supporter would get behind the team when they face adversity, not these whingers. I don't know whether he's talking about me and you or whether he's talking about everyone in general. Take 10 first-team players out of the Liverpool team and see where they sit in the table. Do you feel like the fan base have whinged a lot about our performances, results, etc., and not really taking that into consideration how many players we have out injured? Or should Spurs be in the position where, okay, no matter how many players you've got injured, you just got to get the job done. You've got to go out there, you've got to perform, and you know, every other Premier League team does it.
Yeah, I think, you know, we are. I mean, I'm the biggest whinger going as a Spurs fan. I think a lot of us are whingers by trade. But if you look at really probably one of the worst things that go against Spurs, other half's just come into the house, sorry. That's the noise in the background. But if you look at kind of over the last 5 years, what's made it even worse for Spurs, what's put it into perspective, is Arsenal and their success. And I think that's why we've become whingers, because we want to be there, we want to be up there, and we're kind of seeing things going backwards. We've talked earlier on about bringing in, you know, the win now managers. It didn't work, so they went down this road with Postecoglou, and you know, at the minute it doesn't seem to be working. But injuries, yeah, if you look, like I pointed out earlier, Manchester United had huge injuries last season and still ground out results the whole way to the final, and then, you know, lo and behold, they beat you know, Manchester City in the final. So it was just incredible, and that's where the club needs to be. These players need to just get out there and get on with it. We've got injuries, but every team has injuries, so I'm behind them 100%. Whatever happens, you know, some people switched the game off the other night after 82 minutes or whatever. I didn't, because I still thought, you know, what if we get 1 or 2 goals? At least we'll put a fight up, but it didn't happen. But yeah, the main thing is getting behind the team, and I think in the majority, fans do. Fans just want to see the club being successful and enjoying their football again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Des, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Brilliant, Chris. Thanks for giving me 3 chances. Cheers.
No worries. Thank you.
Take care.
Right, we're now going to go to Steve. Noel, I'll be with you in a couple of seconds. Steve, how are you?
All right, Chris, how are you?
How are you feeling right now?
Disappointed after the other night, obviously, but I've been listening to what people have been saying. I Am I right in thinking Ange's got a 5-year contract?
4-year deal he signed.
4 years. So, I mean, I was thinking about obviously the transfer policy and how much budget he's got to spend and stuff. They talk about it a lot, don't they? They have meetings and stuff about what a budget they've got, and he gives them a list of players of who he wants and stuff. So, I mean, you've got to look at it as a 4-year project. Yes, I know our league position is rubbish. It's not great. And we've got a lot of injuries, which you can't legislate for. But we got to a semi-final of a cup competition. Last 16 is the Europa League. All right, currently in the 4th round of the FA Cup. So, you know, if we beat Villa tomorrow, that's the 5th round of the FA Cup. So it's not. I know we wanted to really win the other night and get over the line and get to a final. It didn't happen, but still a semi-final we've got to. So just got to try and remain positive. I mean, how are you feeling about everything?
I've got to admit, Steve, I feel a little bit deflated after Thursday night. You know,
Yeah.
I said this many times that I just wanted to see a little bit more fight and a little bit more passion from some of the players. I get the fact that, you know, some of these players are absolutely exhausted, but just to show a little bit more willingness, a little bit more desire, a bit more grit, determination in that game, you know, bearing in mind it was a semi-final, and even at the halfway point, you know, it was 1-1 on aggregate. So that second 45 minutes for me was absolutely vital to go out there and give everything. Big game coming up Sunday. You know, our league position isn't great. Europa League, I feel like from now, you know, all the way to the final, I feel like they're going to be very, very tough games. You know, chances are we'll probably face someone like Galatasaray, Real Sociedad in the last 16. It's going to be a very, very tough game, you know, whoever it is. Of course, we play them home and away. Will things vastly improve when we get a lot of our players back? I'm certainly hoping so, and that's why I suppose that I've stuck with Ange. You know, I've never said Ange out. I've always stuck, you know, with Ange Postecoglou, and I've always wanted this to work out for him. And I'm probably still in that position now, because I feel like we should be able to see a fully fit squad under Ange to see what he can really do, to see what sort of challenge he can put together. And I live in hope. I do feel like he's been backed fairly well in transfer windows so far. And I can't say that for other managers, but, you know, I said at the time when Postecoglou took over, something had to change. And I feel like that has changed where, you know, he has been backed. Could we have done more in transfer windows? Absolutely. But as football fans, we always want more, not just Spurs fans, but, you know, you ask any other Premier League fan of any team, you know, did you do enough in the transfer window? All of them will say no, because every fan always wants more. But I'm sticking with Ange right now. Will it be a disaster of a week if we go out in the FA Cup tomorrow against Villa? Absolutely. Because I feel like every single fan we're counting on these cup competitions, and, you know, if we go out to Villa, you know, all we're holding our hopes on then is the Europa League, and I feel like that is a tough competition to win. I know a lot of fans, you know, I know a lot of friends who have even booked flights to the final. They're that confident, but, you know, there are a lot of tough games. You know, you face someone like Galatasaray. I went to Galatasaray earlier this season. You know, the hostile atmosphere there is a very, very difficult place to go. You know, so you've got to, you know, be scoring a couple of goals in the home leg in order to get you over that line. But yeah, I feel a bit mixed actually, Steve, right now. In answer to your question, I want Spurs obviously to do well, but we're just not in that position at the moment where we can mount that challenge because of all these injuries. But we just need the players back quick and fast. You know, Mickey van der Ven, frustrating again that, you know, he's out injured. Richarlison is frustrating again. He's out injured. But hopefully, you know, soon we'll get a lot of these players back.
I mean, with regards to the team tomorrow, would you chuck some of the youngsters in? No, like the youngsters that came on in the Europa League? Because, I mean, I was at the stadium that night, and obviously the game wasn't late until Scarlett came on and Jay came on. I mean, Mike and all played 90 minutes, but some of the, like, they just didn't, nothing phased them. I know it's only Elfsborg, that's fair enough, but I mean, nothing phased them.
But that's another thing. I think that the Spurs fans wouldn't mind seeing a lot of the youngsters getting opportunities. I feel like some Spurs fans, particularly some people at the stadium I talk to on a regular basis, that their frustration is that Ange is always saying about these players are tired, but he has had opportunities to give other players opportunities to play, and he hasn't chosen that. He's wanted to stick with this core group. No matter whether they're absolutely exhausted, knackered, whatever you want to call it, he's stuck with this core group. Someone mentioned earlier about Reguilon. He's fit and fresh. Perhaps he should have played more minutes. Look at Jamie Donnelly today. He's gone out on loan at Leyton Orient. A player like him, who I've been raving about actually in the last couple of seasons, because last year when the Spurs under-21s won 2 trophies at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and I always like to say that because of the lack of trophies at Tottenham, but the under-21s got 2 trophies last year. Players like Jamie Donnelly were at the top of their game. They were so much better than any of the opponents in the other under-21 teams, and he had to get first team football at either Spurs or somewhere else this season. But someone like him, I'd like to see get an opportunity at Tottenham. There are a lot of times this season I do question, I love Ange and I really want it to work, but there are quite a few times this season where I've questioned where perhaps he should have given a youngster an opportunity in certain matches. And Spurs fans love to see that. We love to see our homegrown players, the academy players, come through. Look, you've mentioned that game, Elfsborg at home, and that win at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Every single youngster took their opportunities that night. It's great to see, Steve, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, did you feel the mood in the stadium change and the buzz in the stadium when it?
Yeah.
And it was a complete. And we come away from that thinking, some of these youngsters are great. I know it's only one game and they've had like 15, 20 minutes on the pitch, but I was just like, wow, to have the confidence to come on in a game and literally just like take on your opponent and finish like that. Some of the finish, even Mikey Moore that played 90+ minutes. Literally just turned his man, ran, and then just fired it in. And it was just like, the buzz coming away from that stadium that night. And then obviously we had like the Brentford game on Sunday and we won 2-0. And I was like, okay, this is a bit different, but all right, that's a good result for us. Yeah. And then obviously we backed it up with Liverpool and getting. So we just don't know at the moment, do you, what's going to happen with us? I mean, we could literally go there tomorrow, win 2-3-0, and then wouldn't it be unlucky of us to get like Liverpool or someone like that at Anfield in the next round? But you've got to look at it. I mean, he's been there less than 2 years now. You can't legislate for all the injuries that he's had. That's a massive factor. And obviously, when they go into transfer windows, they say, right, we'll do this, to add to the squad, to freshen it up. But then obviously, when your main players are out for so long. So I think Richarlison's missed over 20 games this season now, isn't it? Something like that, I think it is.
It's unreal. It's unreal. The games that a lot of these players have missed is, it's terrible stats. And, obviously we want to see all of our top players come back and Ange have a selection headache. Wouldn't that be nice for him to have a selection headache of so many players in different positions, when everyone is fit and available?
Steve has it, so he's not had it. Never
Steve,
had yeah, go on. Sorry,
lastly, what's your score prediction for Sunday?
Well, I thought we were going to win 2-1 the other night. How wrong was I? No, I'd take a 1-0, Chris. I literally would just take a 1-0 tomorrow. Win for us. That's
any win will do.
Yeah, any win will do. So, sorry to only me tonight. My dog's in his bed.
Steve, thank you so much for all of your support on the channel, and thanks so much for coming on. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, take care. See you later. Come in, Spurs.
Cheers. Right, we've now got Noel with us all the way from Ireland. Noel, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris. Yeah, I only saw your link there very, very late, so sorry about being late. But
no problem.
Yeah, I was talking to Barnaby the other night. Oh my God, the mood was very bad afterwards. In the studio after the Liverpool game, and I think actually it was. Liverpool are very good. I think we really have to acknowledge that. They were hungry. I mean, the ball that Bradley even went into Son. I mean, their fight and their fire, was exemplary. But we never let a glove on them. I mean, I said to Barnaby that at 2-0 we needed one goal and would be back in the tie. It was unlikely, but we never even looked like there was a couple of passages of play, and Tell made one or two runs, but nobody. The disappointing thing for me is we didn't really compete, and we're really very deflated like yourself. And I'm thinking, that we get a result against Villa, and say we drew Liverpool again, or Chelsea. These teams seem to have the bogey teams for us. Would it be the same thing all over again? So I think it needs to be, two things need to happen. We need to get some more players back, obviously, and there needs to be a complete change of shift of attitude. There's too many players strolling around. I was looking at Bazuma earlier on in the game, and he's a very confident-looking guy. He's a bit cocky-looking, and look at me, I've done something great, and then he gives away a stupid ball, and we could count how many times he's done it this season. Like, he gave a penalty away against Chelsea. And individual errors are costing us so many times. And even, I've been a big supporter of Kinski since he came in. And as I said to Barnaby, even the malaise spread to him. For about 5 minutes, we were pinned and in our own area, and everybody kept giving the ball away. So I think there's a complete lack of confidence as well. And I just wonder, have the players have the down tools really? Has Ange run his course? I'm not really sure. I hope not. But a lot of things need to change.
Now, before I ask you the next question, just to tell everyone who is watching this live, if you'd like to join the show today, the link is in the comments section below. So do click on it. It'd be great to have you on, giving your thoughts and opinions on Tottenham right now. No, I'm glad you brought that up about the mistakes, because as much as everyone goes on about the injuries, some of these mistakes, particularly in the midfield, giving the ball away so much. I don't want to sit here slagging off players, but I quite often say on the channel, Richarlison, I want to see the version that he was at Everton, at Spurs, and I want to see the Basuma that was at Brighton at Spurs. We haven't really seen those versions, have we?
No, absolutely not, Chris. I'm puzzled by, I wonder who actually did, sanction the transfer for Richarlison. I thought he was a strange signing at the start, because we still had Harry Kane, and there was nobody going to dislodge Harry as the number one striker. He came in and out, he flitted in and out, and played a bit on the left, but never looked very convincing. Went a long, long time without scoring. Maybe didn't get enough chances, but this season, he hasn't been fit at all. I think somebody mentioned it earlier that he has missed something like 20 games. So it's not even individual mistakes, Chris. It's cheap free kicks. And the amount of times that somebody, even like, Kulusevski, crashes into somebody, or somebody pushes somebody from behind, and suddenly, and instead of going forward, we're defending again. And we're not very good at defending. So, cut out the silly mistakes and the free kicks. It's more, I think it's more of an attitude. And those are the things. I'm very frustrated when I see somebody giving a free kick. Say, if you're going to foul somebody far up the pitch where it's not going to make much difference, but not suddenly in around the penalty area where you're putting yourself under pressure all the time. And this is the disappointing thing for me. And I know the injuries have taken their course. And I said it to Barnaby the other night. I think we played very close. I think that was 37, 38 games maybe so far. And last season was only 43, maybe 44. I'm not sure exactly. So I don't think we have the squad that we have at the minute. They can't sustain playing that many games. Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, and back again on Sunday. They just can't do it. It's a very fragile squad, and I really don't know what the answer is. But I think our league position, the win against Brentford, was vital. I think that actually, if, say, for example, we had lost that game and somebody had picked up a point or two, I think that was a 6-pointer. I think we are, a couple of wins away. I don't think, I said it to you earlier on, last week that we were in a relegation battle. I don't think we are now, but by God, we need to start picking up points as well and get as far up that table as possible. And we're still in 2 cups. Possible that we could win against Villa, but then if we come up against somebody like, as I say already, Chelsea, Liverpool, I don't think they would have the gut to do it. And that's the disappointing thing to me. I was like, I don't know, you probably don't remember this guy, but somebody like Graham Roberts, a leader. We don't have leaders in that team. Like Graham Roberts was a centre half and a gritty centre half, but by God, he took the game by the scruff of the neck, and there was nobody shirking in midfield. Like Sonny is a lovely guy. I'm sure he's a fabulous guy. He ain't a captain, not for me. And we need somebody. Even Romero is a very quiet sort of a person. He doesn't say much either. So there's no real leaders there. There's nobody to, buck them up and say, come on, lads, get stuck in here. Too nice. We're too easy to play against. This is my opinion. And we're very, very soft. And like teams like Liverpool horsed us out of it the other night. They were first to every ball. We were in possession, and the amount of times we lost the ball, it was absolutely incredible. The only encouraging thing I did actually see was when Tell was trying to make a run upfield. He was like literally running between 2 centre halves, but he was actually waving some of the players to come and make a bit of space. And what were we doing? The guys were sort of walking around in midfield, and nobody bursting a gut to get there, and that was disappointing for me. So, a big rant there, Chris, but that's where I am.
No, that's what we're here for. This is exactly what these shows are about now. When you mentioned about Graham Roberts, who I know extremely well, by the way,
He's a lovely guy, yeah.
Someone like him, I agree with you. But do these types of players exist? We had this, nowadays in the Premier League, we had this conversation on the podcast the other day, Noel, about the likes of Roy Keane. Do these types of players exist these days?
They probably don't, actually. I can't think of, there's too many out there that you could go and sign. But we are too placid. A player, I don't know, you probably again wouldn't remember a player I would really have loved to have seen in the Spurs shirt was like an Archie Gemmill that used to play for Nottingham Forest, and he was a little busy bee. Nicole Canty that played for Chelsea, somebody that was box to box. The guys the Spurs have in midfield, they get the ball, they pass it off, but they don't seem, Canty in a situation. You see him back in the penalty area 1 minute, and on the edge of the box, and the opponent's back. And we've never had that type of player. And you're probably right. The Roy Keanes or the Graham Roberts don't exist, but there's bound to be somebody out there with a wee bit more passion than our midfield at the moment. Somebody that would actually, show a bit of leadership. There is absolutely no leadership in that team. But I think actually Solanke is a massive miss as well, because it wasn't out. When the ball was played up to him, he didn't always score, but by God, he held it up and he brought other people into play. And getting injured was a massive miss, because Richarlison is never going to fit that role. He's not that player. I don't actually know what type of player he is, because they've tried him out wide, they've tried him as a central striker, and he's very passionate. I like that about him, and he's an emotional player. But too easily put off the ball, and too easily injured, like a lot of our players. So I don't know, Chris.
No, it's been mentioned a couple of times on this stream, and a lot this season, about Heung-min Son being our captain. Yeah. Who would you like to see as Spurs captain? Because it's fair to say that Son has received a lot of criticism, which a lot of it, I must say, and I know a lot of people are not going to like this. I feel like it's bang out of order. If I'm honest, because when I see Son, particularly when the cameras aren't on him, he's constantly talking to his teammates. He's constantly trying to G them up. He's constantly, the way that he had to go at Pedro Porro when he shot, when players were in better positions at Brentford, when we were winning, I might add. I see a lot of leadership skills in Heung-min Son, and I know a lot of people might not see this, on the TV, because a lot of it, is not shown on the TV screens. But I feel like inside the stadiums, home games, away games, he's very, very good with the very, very good with the young players as well, the development players, particularly the likes of Archie Gray, always talking to him. What more do people want from a captain?
I like a captain, Chris, at the back or in midfield. You know, I don't think a captain can captain from the front. And we had Hugo Lloris, the captain from the back for years. I like a centre half or a midfield player. And we've got 3 captains in the team, haven't we? We've got Madison, Romero, and Sonny. And Romero's injured. Madison is injured. So I don't think there's anybody. That's the problem, I think, is first. I don't think there is anybody out there with the caliber.
Do you know what as well, Noel? Sorry to interrupt. Ange said this a couple of months ago in one of his press conferences. Just because someone is wearing the captain's armband or they're not wearing the captain's armband, step up anyway. You know, you will become a natural leader. You know, people need to step up anyway. It's not just, you know, you can be talking, you know, communicating, shouting at your teammates, etc., etc. Just because you're wearing a captain's armband, you should be doing it anyway.
No, I agree with you, but that's what the point I was making earlier on, Chris. Spurs are too nice. There's nobody, you know, I can't think of anybody, you know, that sort of fits that bill. You know, they've got a couple of really good young fellas in midfield. You know, Archie Gray, and he's centre half at the moment, and Bergvall. They're not going to be turned around. You know, Bergvall has shown more leadership than anybody in the last few weeks. And suddenly, Thursday night, you know, obviously he was rested, or I don't know why he didn't play. I thought that was a strange decision on its own. So I you know, if we get to the summer, I think every year we say the same, and I know I've seen your podcast all the time, and you'll be going through with all your guests. Who would you keep? Who would stay? Who would go? How much deadwood do we need to get rid of? You know, I think one player that is badly missed this year is Hallberg. You know, Hallberg wasn't the best player in the world, but
I agree.
My God, he fought for every ball. You know, and made a few mistakes towards the end. I would nearly have recalled him in January. He's still only on loan. Maybe that's, you know, that's not possible. But have him in there at any time, as opposed to some of the midfield. I said it to you a few weeks ago. Ange can't seem to find his best midfield. Chops and changes it quite a lot. We had Hallberg at the moment. He would be a big plus to us. And another player, you know, is I see a lot of people talking now. My fellow countryman Troy Parrott, who we give away very cheaply. He's scoring goals for fun. I know Holland is a different league, but you know, he would be a big addition in there at the moment, and we don't have him. So I understand, you know, that you can't keep everybody. Some strange decisions, but I'm glad to see that they brought Jet Spence into the Euro squad. I don't think he should have ever left out of it in the first place. And I think, you know, he's getting a good run in the team, and I think that's only what he deserves. And so still positive enough, Chris. Think we might get a result tomorrow, but fearful if we come up against some of the, you know, if we got Liverpool again at Anfield, there would have to be a monumental change of attitude to go into that game. And what are we, only in the 5th round? If we get through, then you're around the semi-final. 4 more games, and all the European games. We'd be playing 55 games this season. I don't think with the squad we have, we're even capable of playing those games, you know.
No, lastly, how do you see the rest of the season going? Obviously, we've got this FA Cup game. We're in the Europa League. We've got the league games. It looks, you know, highly unlikely that we're going to finish in a European spot. You know, in the league position. Of course, we could be playing the Champions League next season if we won the Europa League. I know there's a long way to go. How you know, if I ask you to predict what's going to happen from now until the end of the season, what are you thinking?
Chris, my first hero at Spurs was Jimmy Greaves, and he came across. I have actually a signed shirt, you know, to me, and it's on it. Noel, it's a funny old game. I think that is, as you say, that's our best avenue. I can't actually see us going much further in the FA Cup, and you know, if we concentrated on the league and the Europa League, it's a possibility. No more than a possibility at the moment. If we get all our players back, of course. But you mentioned actually earlier on, and I remember the game very well. I know you were there against Galatasaray. We were given an awful drubbing in Galatasaray. And even our old player, Davison Sanchez, looked like a world beater that night. And, you know, unless you couple up against very, very strong teams, you need to manage those games very, very well. So I think we'd be okay as regards league points. 2 weeks ago, I thought we were in a relegation battle. We're still technically there, but we're well enough ahead. So I think we can look forward to some more wins, get some players back, and let's go for that Europa League. It's not impossible, but the way we're playing at the moment, and until we get those players back, it's improbable. So that's all I can think, Chris. It's been a funny season. We at the start of the season there was a lot of hope, a lot of good young players, but again, we didn't sign really anyone with much experience, and let a lot of good players go. Hulberg again, even Skip would do a job in there. Not the best player in the world, but by God, at the moment, I could tell you would take him all day long. Harry Winks. But anyway, that's not the future. That's the past. So that's it, Chris.
No, score prediction for tomorrow against Aston Villa.
I never usually bet on people scoring against Spurs, but that doesn't happen. So I'll go for a sneaky 1-2, 2-1 to Spurs. Without any real, Chris, but I'm actually away at the moment, and I'm hoping to get home early and sit down and watch the game. And 2-1. We have something about playing Villa. We do have a good record against them.
Yeah.
And we go to places like Anfield, and we seem beaten before the game even starts. We played Chelsea earlier on in the season. We were 2-0 up. We didn't give them one penalty. We gave them two. The important thing for me the other night is how we conceded the goals. The first goal, a giveaway. Second goal, a giveaway with a penalty. And, push there for a goal at that stage, and you're still in it. And, it's just disaster after that,
No, thank you so much for joining us this evening, particularly at such short notice, and particularly that you're away. So thank you so much for your time.
It's always delighted to be on, and we'll go there tomorrow. I presume you're going. I'm sure you are.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And enjoy your trip, and hopefully we get it over the line.
Fingers crossed. No, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Speak to you soon.
Thanks, Chris. See you later.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much to all of the guests this evening. Thank you to the co-host, Craig Dearman, as well, who is enjoying his dinner now with his family out in the restaurant. Thank you so much for all of your input this evening on this fan show. And remember that, you're always very welcome to come on here, talk about Tottenham Hotspur, give your thoughts, give your opinions, have a rant, whatever you want to talk about on this show. We will be back with the Spurs Chat podcast after, hopefully, when Spurs have beat Aston Villa and we are through to the 5th round of the FA Cup. Wouldn't that be nice to stay in a domestic competition and perhaps go all the way? 1991 was the last time Spurs lifted the FA Cup, and it was then a record 8th time. Can Spurs do it again? Let's hope so. But we are in a difficult moment at the moment, a depleted squad. Ange Postecoglou desperately needs some of his stars back. Let's wait and see. I will see you Sunday afternoon for the edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. Hopefully you can join us. And thank you so much for all of your incredible support. Thank you for your input. Thanks for all of your comments, and have a great weekend. Come on, you Spurs.
Thank you.